The movie begins in Ukraine with Boyka, the fiercest fighter in the world. He was released from Chornia maximum security prison after serving 10 years. This is after Gaga helped him escape from prison in the previous part of the movie. He becomes remorseful for the mistakes he made in his life, and he still participates in illegal fights. But at the same time, he dreams of getting out of this quagmire to participate in world championships. He was in a fight with someone, and as usual, he could beat his opponent with ease, while the audience was cheering for him. We return to Chornia prison in Russia, where Boyka was previously imprisoned. A new prisoner arrives, a giant wrestler named Koshmer. The prison warden is still betting on matches. Koshmer is brought into the ring while being handcuffed by the prison guards. When the match begins, he gets into a fight with another fighter. The opponent's blows were in vain because Koshmer outperforms him physically. Then Koshmer lifted the opponent and threw him to the ring and eliminated him. We return to Boyka, who goes to church and donates copies of the Bible to the church. The priest tries to convince him to stay away from violence, but he tells him that he is playing this game under the rules, and he also tells him that God has given him this talent. He then exercises at the Kiev Sports Center. His business manager meets him and tells him that he can arrange a legal match for him, and if he wins this match, he will be able to participate in an international martial arts tournament. He is very happy because he will finally be able to achieve his dream when the match that his business manager arranged for him comes. He is preparing to fight a person named Victor. The winner of the match will qualify for the international tournament. His business manager tells him that his opponent has very high skills, but he tells him that no one will stand in the way of achieving his dream. They enter the ring and the referee gives them instructions, and then the match begins. Victor was a strong opponent for Boyka, but he was able to hit him and knock him down. But Victor gathers his strength and gets up again. But Boyka punched him in succession and knocked him to the ground again. But Victor had a strong will and got up again. But this time he hit him hard, and he was able to knock him down and win the match. He exits the ring under the crowd's cheers. Two people come to him and congratulate him on his victory. They tell him that he will participate in the international tournament after 2 weeks. His business manager also congratulates him and gives him money because of his victory. When he gets out, he witnesses the paramedics taking Victor to the hospital, and they tell him that his health condition is very critical because of his concussion. He feels guilty for causing it, and at night he couldn't sleep because of what he did. The next day, he goes to his business manager, who tells him that Victor has died. And he also tells him that he is not responsible for what happened, but he asks him to see Victor's belongings that he left in his safe because he was training in the same gym with him. He finds out that Victor is married and has a family in Russia. He decides to travel to Russia and asks his business manager to make a fake passport for him. His manager warns him that he might be arrested, but he is determined to go and tells him that he will be back before the tournament. In Russia, we see Alma, who is Victor's wife, who was present at his funeral. There was also a corrupt businessman named Zarub, and he was looking at Alma. After the funeral ceremony is over, he tells her that her husband owed him, and now he wants his money. She tells him that she will work to pay the money. He tells her that he wants her to work for him. His manager brings him a fake passport and tells him to stay out of trouble in Russia. Then he takes the passport and travels. At the checkpoint, he told the officer that he was going to visit his sick uncle, so the officer allowed him to enter Russia. He goes to a small hotel, and the next day he goes to where Victor's wife works. He watches her with a little girl. Then he watches Zarub's men take her with them. One of Zarub's men, when he sees him, asks him to move away from the place. He tells him why they took her, knowing that she works as a waitress in a nightclub owned by Zarub, in order to pay off the debts owed by her husband. It was in this nightclub that bets were being made on bootleg fights. The strongest fighter in this nightclub was a person named Igor, who was fighting another person, and was able to defeat him after breaking his leg. Then he tells the crowd that he is the king of the ring. Zarub was watching all this from his desk, and he was also watching Alma. Boyka watches her and tells her that he wants to talk to her, but Zarub's assistant Slava tells him to stay away from her. When they came out, he told him not to try to approach Alma again. When he was determined to talk to her, Slava ordered his men to beat him, but he managed to beat them, including Slava, who tried to threaten him with a gun. After that, Zarub, who witnessed what happened and was also impressed by his fighting skills, comes and offers him to work with him in order to fight in the ring in the club. But he refused and told him that he only wanted to talk to Alma. But he refused and told him that if he tried to get close to her, he would hurt him. He tells him that he owns Alma in the entire city. He goes after that, but Zarub asks his men to watch him. The next day he goes to the place where Alma works. He beats up a guard who works for Zarub. Then he enters to meet her and give the letter that Victor had written to her. He asks her if Zarub is bothering her, and she tells him that her husband was in debt to him. And after he died, she started working for him to pay off the debt. She asks him how he knows Victor. He confesses to her and tells her that he was the one who caused her husband's death. But surely it was all unintentional. He tells her that he has come to Russia to apologize to her and to help her. He tries to give her the money he earned as a result of winning the match, but she kicks him out and was angry at him for causing her husband's death. We see Slava with Zarub, who was watching fighters training, but he was not impressed with their level, and he also tells him that he wants professional fighters to include them in the fights that he organizes. After that, we see Boyka, after he beats one of the guards, and he tells Zarub that he wants to pay off Alma's debt in order to set her free. He offers him to play 3 matches for him, and in return, he leaves Alma. He agrees, but he had a condition that he beat Igor, who was there, and tells him that he will defeat him. Zarub tells him that he can train in his club to prepare for the fight. He also told him that he knew that the Russian police were chasing him, but he also told him that he would not tell the police about him. Slava doesn't know Boyka, but Zarub tells him that he is a legend in martial arts. He then calls his business manager in Ukraine and tells him that he will be late for another week. Afterwards, he meets Alma, who learns of the agreement he made. She tells him that she doesn't want someone to fight for her, that he had made the decision, and then he goes to the gym to prepare for the matches. The fighters were trying to harass him. One of the fighters asks him to get away from the boxing bag, and he tries to hit him, but he hits him, and he falls to the ground with 1 blow. The date of his first match comes, and he enters the ring, and he was at the top of his physical fitness. He was able to hit his opponent fiercely and win the match. Igor tells him after the match is over that he is waiting to fight him. Zarub asks Alma to give Boyka a drink and to congratulate him. He asks her if she knows another place to train, because the gym where he trains is causing him problems. She tells him he can train in the gym where she works. The next day he goes to the place and tells the guard that he works for Zarub now, so he is allowed in. Then he meets Alma and she takes him to the gym. He starts training. The children watched him and were amazed at him. She tries to push them away from him to allow him to focus on the exercises, but he asks her to let him watch him. During the break, she told him that her husband was training in this place. In his second match, he is surprised when he learns that he will fight 2 people at the request of Zarub, who tells him that he is the one who sets the rules for these fights. But he wasn't interested in that. They start attacking him, but he was better than them and managed to beat them. After that, he hit one of them, but the other person hit him in the back, which led to a severe injury. But he gathers his strength after that and is able to beat them and win the match. The audience was cheering him as he emerged victorious from the ring, but he was injured. Zarub then meets a corrupt officer working in Chornia prison and gives him the money to bring the fighter Kashmir to fight Boyka, who was training to prepare to fight against Igor. Alma brings a prescription for him to treat his injury. He thanks her and advises her to leave this place and run away, but she refuses and tells him that she cannot leave the children she is taking care of. Zarub goes to visit her and asks her if she liked Boyka, but she tells him that there is nothing between them and kicks him out. But he tells her that he will not leave Boyka and that he will get rid of him, or he will send him back to prison. His business manager calls him and tells him that he has booked a bus ticket for him to return to participate in the international tournament, and he also tells him that the fans are waiting for him. He tells him that he will arrive on time, and then he goes back to the hotel, and he is surprised by Alma's presence. She tells him about how her husband died in the ring. He tells her that he was a former aggressive person, and that he considered her husband just a person standing in the way of achieving his dream of becoming a world champion. But he told her that it was not intentional when he caused her husband's death, and he told her that he regretted everything. After that comes his match date with Igor. He gets ready and goes to the ring. He looks at the clock because he only has 1 hour left to go to Ukraine and participate in the international tournament. The match between them begins and it was a strong match. Igor was able to hit him below the belt while he fell to the ground, and Igor hit him on the back and continued hitting him at the place of his injury. But he gathers his strength and hits him, and when he watches Alma, his enthusiasm increases to win the match. He hits his opponent hard until he knocks him down and wins the match. She is very happy with his victory. He notices that he only has a quarter of an hour left to head to the bus that he will travel on. He exits the ring and heads for the exit door. Zarub was angry and goes to meet him and tells him that he did a great performance. When he asked him to free her, As they agreed, he told him that he must beat his club's champion, who is not Igor, but another fighter. He told him that if he did not agree to fight, he would not free Alma. His business manager calls him and asks him if he came or not. He tells him that he did not come on the bus, but he tells him that he will arrive on time. He asks Zarub to bring the fighter as soon as possible. Fighter Kashmir arrives under heavy security, and the old jail warden is with him. They enter the ring and the match begins. He tries to hit his opponent, but it is useless, and then Kashmir hits him and knocks him down. The match referee is counting. He watches Alma and gathers his strength again, and tries to stand on his feet with difficulty. He tries to attack him, but he fails. Kashmir hits him again hard, and all the audience thought that he had lost, but they didn't know that he had a strong will. So he started hitting his opponent. He hits him several times because of his skills and can dislocate his shoulder. And then he hits him and knocks him out of the ring. He wins again and proves to everyone that he is the best fighter in the world. But Zarub does not keep the promise and does not release Alma. After that, his men beat up Boyka and everyone gets out of the place. But he beat them and got rid of them. Slava shoots him, but he dodges. He takes the gun and gets rid of Slava. Zarub takes Alma and threatens her with a gun and leaves the scene. He comes out and asks him to free her, but he threatens him with a gun and asks him to drop the weapon. He really does what he asks. He tells him that he will send him back to prison because he is wanted. He tries to shoot him, but Alma hits him so he can take advantage of the opportunity and attack him and get rid of him. But he was shot and injured. However, he asks her to forgive him. The police forces arrive and arrest him. After 6 months, he was treated and returned to prison. She goes to visit him and tells him that she is happy that he has recovered from his injury. He asks her about the children she takes care of, and she shows him drawings of the children that they drew him in because they were impressed by him. She tells him that because of his help, she was able to regain her dignity and freedom. She tells him that she has forgiven him for what he did to her. He thanks her for forgiving him. He returns to fights in the prison ring after losing the dream of participating in the international tournament. Here the movie ends. Thank you for watching.